What's the best value Swiss dive watch out there at the moment? That's quite some debate, but we might just have found the answer, and it comes via Italy. Squale has always had some compelling offerings that blend style with history, and some of their latest watches are just too good to ignore. In this video, we're going to look at 7 Squale models and explore why this brand is worth paying attention to. Squale was actually making dive watches long before it was founded as a brand, with the original company owner, Charles von Buren, making cases for other Swiss firms back in the 1950s. Now that was pretty common practice at the time, they were all doing it, but we're talking about some big names like Blancpain, Heuer and Sinn, which just goes to show how highly regarded Squale's products were. From 1959, Squale started making watches in their own right, and they were later even involved in world record attempts with noted freedivers such as Enzo Maiocca. Later, Squale was acquired by the Maggi family from Italy. They were formerly the company's distributor, and it's this mix of Italian seafaring tradition and panache, along with the noted heritage of the Swiss industry, which makes Squale so special for me. They're watches that really stand out, thanks also to their signature shade of blue, and we'll be seeing more of that later. Suffice it to say that this sea-inspired blue has always been a really noticeable hallmark of everything that Squale does, along with a certain style that's unmistakable. One other thing that you should know is that the name Squale is derived from the Italian word for shark, so you could call it the king of the ocean. Let's go over some of my favourite models from the range. The Squale Matic that I have here is a classic that perfectly channels the era of the vintage dive watch, and it features that trademark shade of blue, complete with shark logo on the dial that I mentioned earlier. All this adds up to a very high level of clarity and legibility, which is exactly what you need on a dive watch underwater. The big lollipop on the seconds hand also means that you can see at a glance that everything is working exactly as it should be, so everything is there for a reason. If you want to make a bit of a statement, you can copy me and put the watch on an orange WatchGecko vintage rubber strap. It looks rather fetching, and of course it matches the minute hand too. The other thing that makes it so endearingly retro is that domed crystal, which you'll find on a lot of Squale watches. Inside, there's a Sleater SW200 movement. You won't actually find any quartz watches in the Squale lineup at all. And the whole thing is water resistant to 600 meters. So realistically, this is a feature that none of us will be testing for ourselves. And it's just as well in that case that Squale has. I've actually been to the factory in Chiasso, which is just across the Italian border into Switzerland, to see the whole process and testing and everything, and it's impressive. Now, at 44 millimeters, this is a big watch, although it doesn't feel too imposing on my admittedly chunky wrist. It's yours for just over £1,100, which to my mind makes it great value. Another legacy watch from the Squale range is the Master, dating back to the 1960s, as you can certainly see from its design aesthetic, but it's just been updated this year to honour the brand's 65th anniversary with a titanium model. In fact, this is the very first all-titanium watch from Squale. The 1960s was the era in which Squale was breaking those depth records that we mentioned earlier, with fearless freedivers such as Enzo Maiocca and Jacques Mayol, and this was the watch that was made for them, with water resistance down to 1,000 meters or 1 kilometer. Now that was probably superfluous, as those freediving records were all less than 100 meters, but you get the point. These days, that water resistance on the new titanium version has increased to a staggering 1,200 meters, but what really distinguishes it for me is the gorgeous sandwich dial, featuring old radium superluminova for a retro glow. Back in the day, tritium provided the luminescence, but radioactive materials have become less popular since the 1960s. I'm not entirely sure why though. So brands have to recreate the look. The 41mm titanium case, actually just a bit over 41mm, works really well here. Personally, I love the lightness of titanium, and for a diver or just anyone, it's supremely comfortable on the wrist without that heft you get with many other watches, dive watches in particular. Having said that, this watch is actually heavier than you think it will be. That's largely down to the movement, which in this case is another automatic Sleater. Now, I reckon that this one might be just one of the most desirable watches in the whole Squale range at present, and you can buy it for just over 2,100. It's not the cheapest watch, but it's still good value for what you get. The Sub 39, which is perhaps my favourite Squale, well, here it is, in all its glory. That watch was introduced 5 years ago to celebrate what was then Squale's 60th birthday, initially as a limited edition. Now that collection's expanded to feature quite a wide range of these watches, all inspired by those designs from the past. Personally, I love the aesthetic of this watch, particularly the domed crystal, which is very much a star attraction and delivers a real 1950s feel. Squale absolutely nailed it with this one, and its delicate looks actually belie 300 meters of water resistance. So even though it looks almost like a museum piece, this is every inch a proper dive watch. Its faithfulness to the original 1950s design cues are what really makes it stand out, and it pays perfect homage to a glamorous era which I wish I'd been old enough to experience for myself. Inside, there's an ETA movement, and staying true, of course, to Squale's Swiss-made tradition. And now on this watch, we come to the real party piece, which is the addition of a GMT function. That makes it the perfect go-anywhere watch for travellers, allowing you to track a second time zone in addition to your local time. If you love dive watches, horological history, and GMT watches, I love all three, this is probably the perfect watch for you. At least that's the conclusion that I drew, because this watch for me really does have everything. This one is actually my personal watch, which I've had for a few years now, and it's got a slightly different look to it than the ones you can buy now, but it's very, very often on my wrist. It costs around 1,800. Next, I wanted to show you something that's a little bit more modern and different, which is the Squale T-183. These last watches that we've been talking about are very much part of, let's say, the classical canon of dive watches, but this collection, which was first launched in 2019, is aimed firmly at the future and innovation. The point that Squale is making here, I think, is that they're not just a retro brand. In fact, they currently supply both the Italian Navy and the Italian Police diving division with thoroughly modern watches. The case of this T-183 is made out of carbon, and the watch is available in 3 colours. Here we've got the orange, but you can have blue or yellow as well. When I say carbon, I specifically mean forged carbon. That's an incredibly strong yet light material thanks to a specific manufacturing process whereby small fragments of carbon fibre are placed in a mould together with resin and then pressed and forged at high temperatures. As a result, you get this sort of mottled effect which makes every watch unique. Once again, you'll find a Solita movement inside, but this time the crystal is a modern anti-reflective flat crystal rather than the domed retro flavour we've seen before, and there's a rubberized leather strap which sets off the modern look really well. The watch looks black, but in reality it's more of a light grey, and this complements the thoroughly contemporary aesthetic, especially when it's paired with that black date wheel that you see. Very nice touch. It's actually a 42mm case enclosing everything, but the oversized bezel, which is another Squale trademark, in fact a trademark of all dive watches, and the black slims it down a lot, which is also why I'm wearing a black shirt today. This watch looks great in a number of different coloured straps. The orange highlight means that it works particularly well with an orange strap like this one, for example. And the price, about 1,700. Now, if you want a black watch, you need PVD. And for this, we have the 1521 in black PVD, although you can have a 1521 in all sorts of different dials, declinations, and colours. This is a watch that was originally conceived by Charles von Buren in the 1970s, and you can certainly spot that design language easily. Inside, there's an ETA or a Solita movement, depending on model, but both are equally accurate and reliable, and the water resistance is also worthy of note at an impressive 500 meters. This is a particularly versatile watch. As well as this PVD, as I said, you can also get a polished or sandblasted finish along with a wide range of strap options and other colours. But I like the black PVD. It looks particularly good with the black mesh strap and makes it really a true stealth Squale, don't you think? Essentially, the 1521 has long been one of my favourites, and it's the perfect all-rounder in so many ways, again measuring in at 42mm. It's yours for just over 1,200. You've seen the past and the future. Now I want to show you Squale's evergreen bestseller. This is the 1545. Again, that doesn't relate to a significant date or anything like that. Like the 1521, it's simply an early production number that somehow stuck. So this watch has got a very familiar look to it for anyone who appreciates classic dive watches, and it's got an equally classic 300 meters worth of water resistance. This is a model that dates back to the 1970s, back in the days when Squale was still producing watches for other brands as well. And they really carved their niche as pioneers when it came to ensuring water resistance. You can probably see that heritage and lineage right here in this watch. It can be considered as the real backbone of Squale's range, and it's been produced in a number of different iterations and colours over the years. Recently, it's been redesigned and updated with some more modern touches and colours, but without ever losing touch with that waterproofing heritage I mentioned earlier that makes Squale unique. For example, you can tell straight away if the crown is opened or closed, as the gasket is only visible when the crown is open. You can see a little red marking that gives it away. Now, as we look at all these watches, we've actually been scaling down the sizes. This is just 40 millimeters, which I think is just about as close to the perfect size as you can probably get. Again, inside you'll find the familiar Sellita SW200 movement, but you can buy the whole watch for less than £1,000. Now, this is the real value proposition, and I reckon it neatly answers the question we posed at the top of the video: what's the best value Swiss dive watch you can buy? Squale has never lost touch with its past, and one of the most emblematic watches in the range is the Super Squale, which, alongside the 39 that I showed you earlier, really captures the spirit of the skin diver genre. That's to say, dive watches that have all the functionality to go under the water, yet with the sort of slim elegance that you can wear at work or even to a more formal event. This watch is actually the smallest of all of them we've been looking at here in size, at just 38 millimeters, but you still get 200 meters of water resistance. Unlike the plexiglass crystals of the skin divers in the 1960s, the Super Squale is now equipped with a double-domed sapphire crystal, which maintains the quintessential vintage charm of the skin diver genre without ever compromising on durability or legibility. That classic feel, of course, is underlined at night thanks to the old-school radium-style luminova. Don't make the mistake, though, of thinking that this watch is all about an unashamed wander down memory lane. It's actually got a very contemporary feel at the same time, thanks really to its lightness and its compact dimension. The mixture of Arabic numerals and markers, as the name of this watch suggests, it's called the Super Squale Arabic Numerals, because you can also get it with the classic markers only. It lends it a thoroughly modern look, which is why, for me, this is a real timeless classic. It's available in a number of colours. This blue here is my favourite, and yours for just over £1,000. That's a quick look at some of the latest watches available from Squale. We hope you enjoyed taking a look at the range and seeing what's on offer. If you've got any thoughts at all, please let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And please like and subscribe for more videos on the WatchGecko channel.